Good morning, my 7 followers. How are we all doing today? It's Larsen Live. It is April 6th, and it is time once again to rent a carpet shampooer and enjoy spring break. Let's get rowdy. Yes, I'm making the same joke I made, what was it, 2 years ago? Yes, because Simpsons references will never get old. Anyway, we opened up with Passing Breeze, the remix from one of the myriad Outrun re releases that they did. I think it was the Sega Saturn one, which, Simpsons and Sega Saturn references. Oh boy, growing up in the end of history was great. Remember that brief moment when we thought that, the world would stop sucking? Yeah, those were good times. Anyway, let's get right to the news. How is everybody's spring break doing? My spring break's going pretty good. I didn't really go anywhere crazy, but I had a nice relaxing week, and all was well. Pony Throat mentions that there are new Maymays in the Maymay reel. Yes, there sure are. But yeah, let's get right to the news, such as it is. Okay, so on April 1st, you think it might be an April Fool's Day joke, but it's not. Al-Jazeera Plus, the Twitter feed, uh, mentions a certain story. Oppenheimer has been released in Japan 8 months after its global release. We spoke to historian Naoka Wake to learn why the U.S. refuses to take accountability, quote unquote, for the quote unquote war crimes it committed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and why it's relevant to us today. Boy, you know what I really love? I love having somebody from Japan lecture me on not taking responsibility for wrongdoings. That's wonderful. And for that matter, somebody from Al Jazeera can also, not talk about that. I mean, we can talk about the Dar al Harb and the bloodshed they've spilled. That is, of course, not to say the United States has never done anything wrong, because of course it has. But, you know, it's a bit silly considering that the Japanese government still has not accounted for many of their war crimes. And yeah, I hate to say it, but Al Jazeera got blown the fuck out in the retweets, in the requotes. People from all the spectrums of politics came together to say, "You need to shut up, sir." And for the matter, this is just one historian who isn't even really a historian at all, so not sure where they dug this person up. I mean, that is basically the narrative we're given nowadays, isn't it? That, the peaceful, peace loving nation of Imperial Japan got attacked by America for literally no reason. Because it's white people fighting non white people, and therefore non white people are automatically good. Anyway, let's see what we got in the comments here. Pony Throat says, unpopular opinion. The Sega Saturn, Sega sucked. What was good about it? Well, I mean, when you really get down to it, Sega basically had one really good console, which was the Genesis, and yeah, they kind of rode on that wave of good feelings pretty much for the eternity of their existence. Which, I mean, they're still making games today, and they're still riding those vibes. Yeah, the Sega Saturn was a pile of crap, honestly. Yeah, you know what's great, Sega, when you don't make a game starring your most famous mascot as a launch title for your console. But yeah, we really enjoyed playing Nights into Dreams. Because nothing says fun like gay jester man flying about doing God knows what. I take that back. I mean, Nights into Dreams is not a bad game. They also had Mr. Bones, because who doesn't like Skeleton Blues Man traipsing through the graveyards? But yeah, Saturn, not a great console. I mean, it was better than the CD and the 32X. They started to turn things around with the Dreamcast, but it was too little too late by that point. And now they're just a third-party publisher. C-Punk Messiah says he's not doing well. His mental health took a dive and had to take a piss all over hell. Divers got a rise out of people. It was a success. Fuck that game. I hope the Bugs win. Yeah, I haven't played Helldivers. Just haven't gotten around to it. Not helping matters that I work 2 jobs, don't have any of the modern consoles. Technically, I don't have any consoles in my house, unless you count the PC. Shinseki Evan says the Japanese are smart not to apologize, though. Gives them an immunity to historical grievance grifters. In a ruthless way, that is basically true. I mean, America constantly apologizes for its history, and everybody takes advantage of that. I mean, personally, I've always been of the opinion that, I have little truck with, sanitized, glorified nationalistic depictions of history. I feel that everybody's dirty laundry should be aired. Either everybody gets guilt tripped or nobody gets guilt tripped. And frankly, I'm of the opinion that everybody should get guilt tripped. Because I'm sadistic like that. Ponythroat says, trying to download a 55 gigabyte file at less than 1 megabyte per second speeds. LOL. I'm not sure what file you're downloading, sir. I wish you the best of luck. Okay. Ponythroat says, the Dreamcast, no games, very underpowered, with a controller that copied the Nintendo 64 controller, which was shite to begin with. I mean, I would disagree with the notion that it had no games. I mean, it had some good games. I mean, the Sonic Adventure games are 25% of a good game. And it had like Phantasy Star Online, had a lot of good sports games. It was one of the earliest consoles to have online play. Yeah, I mean, it got BTFO'd by the PlayStation 2 pretty damn quick, but the Dreamcast was decent for what it was, I think. But yes, as you can see, I really wish I could be talking about the pop culture and video games and goofy shit. But unfortunately, the real world comes. And speaking of the Japanese government, at least they had the good sense to have a deliberate government project to archive old video games and make them emulatable for the common man, which is literally more than the United States government has ever done in probably the last 40 years at least for American citizens. I mean, dare I say that Japan's government, for all of its many, many flaws, does not actively hate its citizens like the American government. Oh my! Did you know that America dropped the sun on 2 cities? Yeah. Do you really want to compare casualty figures here? I guarantee you, Imperial Japan killed a lot more people. And of course, everybody is desperately trying to, simp for one of the most brutal empires in the history of the world. Especially out and out communists, which is pretty goddamn funny when I see them simping for literal fascists. But you must understand, of course, that the underlying principle of the modern communist, and indeed, well, communism in general, but especially modern communism, is that America is the worst place ever. America is always bad, and therefore anybody who fights America is good. Hence why you have the wonderful alliance of shitlibs and fundamentalist Muslims, and also the simping for literally Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany. But I digress. Okay. Shinseki Evans says all the best Dreamcast games were only released in Japan. Yes, I have heard that. Ponythroat says it wasn't the first to have online play. That goes back further than most people think. The Super Nintendo could do it, and the Intellivision from 1979 could download games. I mean, yes, I know technically the NES and the SNES had that that BS and not bullshit, but it was called the BS attachment. But come on, who's really playing online with that shit in like the early 90s. And yes, also I'm aware that the original arcade Mortal Kombat could technically hook up on LAN networks as well. But again, I don't know how many people were doing that. I guess I should say that it was the first console that most people played online with. Anyway, yeah, screw Al Jazeera. I have no ill will towards modern Japan, but I have quite a bit of ill will towards Imperial Japan. Anyway, speaking of Asia, East Asia, let's leave Japan. Let's go to one of Japan's former colonial vassals, South Korea. South Korea literally does not have any first graders. Over 150 elementary schools in South Korea do not have any first graders. A total of 157 have no first graders at all. A record low number of new students is expected for the upcoming school year. Now, it is true that pretty much all industrially developed countries, including the United States, are below replacement fertility. I believe it's, 2.5 is replacement fertility. Like, I know in America we're at like 1.6 or 1.7. But as far as I'm aware, South Korea has literally the lowest rate of fertility in the world. Like, apparently, from what I've gathered, South Korea has this like ridiculously militant and just really just grotesquely offensive like feminist movement that's appeared in South Korea in recent years. It's the 4B movement. They renounce 4 major activities: sex with men, child rearing, dating men, and marriage with men. 4B stands for Bihon, Bishosan, Bione, and Bisexu. The refusal of marriage, childbirth, romance, sexual relationships. I mean, people complain about American feminism, but, oh boy. Yes, South Korea is, yeah, apparently there's like this whole thing where South Korean ladies will just spam any internet post of South Korean men with like little like pinchy finger emoticons. I think we all know what that refers to. And yeah. South Korean feminists have their entire country by the balls. So it has been said that North Korea got the absolute worst of communism and South Korea got the absolute worst of capitalism. South Korea got like insane, corporate control, insane, like, these stringent job markets, just the most bitchy, radical feminism imaginable. And yeah, it seems like North Korea might just win by default if they can just hold out and wait for the South Koreans to just castrate themselves emotionally to death. Yeah, studies have shown that there's a wide ideology gap opening up between young men and women in countries around the world. But it is the most, it's basically conservative versus liberal. Uh, so I'm looking at this graph right here. I'll just pop it up. Give me 1 second here. As I talk to fill up dead air, this is what they taught me to do on the radio station when I was in school. Okay, I am posting the thing. I'm downloading the thing to my hard drive. Then I'm going to post the thing. I'm going to post that thing right now. Here I go. I'm adding the source. And I'm clicking on that source. And I'm browsing. He's browsing. And I'm talking to fill up dead air. Hey, look at me. I'm doing good, radio mentors. Yeah, so here's the ideology gap. Yeah, so we can see that things are not very good in a lot of places. Like, you have, so you got the y axis here. Going up on the y axis represents liberalism, and going down on the y axis represents conservatism. So in a lot of developed nations, there is a widening gap. So you can see in America, men are veering slightly conservative, but women are going super liberal. In Germany, it's kind of the opposite. Men are going, below the axis in conservatism. Women are, slightly less liberal than America. And in the UK, they're starting off from a higher base of liberality, if you will. But they're splitting up. And then you see South Korea, where like women are going super liberal and men are just digging straight to hell and going conservative. Which is not to say that, I'm not making a political statement here. Going conservative is not necessarily bad and liberal is not necessarily good. I mean, as I've mentioned, I kind of have some opinions that are conservative and some that are liberal. Or as I've also put it, I'm probably just a bog standard liberal by 1970s standards, which makes me a fascist by 2024 standards. But yeah, as much as I complain about like the gender gap in America being bad, apparently South Korea is much, much worse. Rick says, hello, Larsen. Yes, hello. Ponythroat says, who would have thought that working 90 hours a week for low pay, living in basement Seoul, is not conducted with the people having children? Yeah. I mean, that's part of it, certainly. Which always made me kind of wonder, like, if conservatives are all about, family values and shit like that, shouldn't they, like, subsidize people to have families like they do in Hungary, in Singapore, and other places? Shinseki Evans says, Koreans are the most extremist of all Asians. Yes, that they are. Ponythroat says, the feminist movement in South Korea is insignificant. The reason nobody is having children in South Korea is they live in South Korea, and living in South Korea sucks. That, yes, that is certainly a consideration. But yeah, like I said, I think North Korea might just win by default. Yeah, North Korea might just win by default if they just kind of hold out and wait for South Koreans to, incel and femcel themselves into oblivion. A tweet in the thread. All I see is this showing that Korean men and women despise each other. I mean, to be fair, like, Asian men and Asian women in general despise each other, at least nowadays. So that's hardly anything new. So I guess it's like Ponythroat said. Koreans just take normal Asian, behavioral and sociological patterns and just take them to an unhealthy extreme. I don't know. It seems to me like you could just, pay people to have families. But I guess just having a environment where men and women despise each other is just better, I guess. Things fall apart and the center cannot hold. Jesus Christ, this is... Or, you could just bring in unlimited, unskilled immigrants to deal with the population crisis instead, because that's apparently the only other option we can have. Hey, Shinseki Evans says only traditional nuclear families should be subsidized. I don't know, like, are we talking extended families as well? Or, I don't know, like, Hungary and Singapore, like, Hungary and some other, like, I think Poland too, and Singapore, they've actually done some pretty good inroads and actually getting more people to have families. Whatever they're doing, I think maybe we should do that. But no, as I've said, the American government hates the American people, and they just want to they just want to change the demographics instead. And apparently that's what's going on in South Korea as well. Ah, there's my wife giving me coffee. Thank you very much, darling. Yes, clearly I do not live in South Korea because me and my wife love each other. All right, so what else is going on in the world? Well, there is some celebrity news, but we'll get to that later. Much later, actually. Okay, yeah, so speaking of underpopulation, it's time once again for yet another, of my favorite Twitter genre, where some shitlib is like, "Oh, look at all these natural spaces in America. Like, we should just pave it over and just build apartments everywhere and just bring in billions of people." So saith Michael Tracy. One thing that strikes me traversing through coastal southern Oregon and northern California is how underpopulated it is. The most beautiful scenery in the world and the biggest coastal population center for miles and miles is Crescent City, California. Population 7,000. Yeah, you know what this beautiful, old growth redwood forest needs? Derelicts screaming on the street corner and high rise, slum apartments. That's what we need. I will never understand like this insatiable drive to just ruin natural spaces with billions of people. Yes, I've noticed that your country is dangerously underpopulated, says Apu. Boy, you know what this beautiful, pristine forest needs? Needs some illegal immigrants bringing me Grubhub on a bike and screaming derelicts on a street corner and just concrete everywhere. And we need liquid trees, too. I. These people suck. Like, it's like that guy I talked about a couple weeks ago who just goes to a forest and just starts like screaming hysterically because he can't handle, an environment without silence or with silence and without, noise and shitty music blasting on radios and screaming derelicts. Is there a way we can find people like this and just gently punch them in the balls so we can like shut these people up? I said this before and I'll say it again. Yeah, fuck you, Thomas Edison and the Fresh Air Fund. Hey, so Ponythroat says, given who South Korea's neighbors with, maybe they will end up funding post-nuclear families. Again, at this point, I really don't think they're going to need to at this point, considering how low the fertility rate is in South Korea. I think, give it 50 years, North Korea might just be able to walk across the border without firing a shot, because there's going to be nobody there. And of course, North Korea is, using squirrel and hedgehog to, to initiate the children into weird furry porn, which will get the fertility rate up, I guess. Damn you, Lieutenant Vixen. Rick says, nice new memes. I like the Charlie Brown to Saitama origin story. Yes, I mean, Charlie Brown has suffered enough. He deserves to, ascend to godhood. Ponythroat, referring to the urban bugman thing, says, those are the same people who think that you can just build an apartment in the middle of rural Carolina and have it be habitable. Yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with cities in theory. But, cities are cities and the rural areas are rural areas. This might surprise people, but you kind of need rural areas to like have food. Yeah, I know Movie Bob and other shitlibs seem to think that you can just make these big rotating buildings that are like greenhouses that can grow food. They tried it in China. It didn't work. So, for the time being, Movie Bob, you're going to have to deal with those evil, mayonnaise goblins, growing your food and building your houses. I live very close to New York City, but even I'm not like this. Like, I might live in an urban area, but I'm not a goddamn urban bug man. It's like, this these trees and grass, like how terrible. Needs Grubhub. Idiot. Yeah, okay, moving on from that bit of me losing faith in humanity. There's a lot more to talk about with losing faith in humanity. Okay, so we're going to talk about the stupid crime beat, as we always do. A suspect in a Metro bus murder in Berkeley, Missouri, not Berkeley, California, but would you really be surprised if it was? He felt that he was looked at the wrong way before he started opening fire. Okay, yeah, so this is actually in March, but still fitting. Yeah, so Anthony Laron Frazier was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of armed criminal action. He killed one guy, wounded another guy, 1 count of unlawful use of a weapon. Yes, he had seen the victim earlier, and he felt that he had disrespected him by looking at him the wrong way. In my 30 years of law enforcement, says Police Chief Art Jackson, I've never seen anything like this. What is the wrong way to look at somebody? The suspect in question did not clarify what that meant. So I guess this is why they say when you're on the subway, just, when some brappy is like barking and like smearing his feces on the window, you can just, just look up at the ceiling, turn on your music, and just hope that the problem goes away by itself. Because it would be fascist and racist to, demand clean subway cars and safety. Yeah, I really hate people sometimes, and it's just going to keep going because there's another stupid shooting that happened. Okay, so in California, the Chips, heaped glory upon their names, sarcasm, by, well, basically, there was a teenage girl who was kidnapped. She ran towards the cops, begging for help. They immediately started opening fire. One officer on the body cams was heard screaming, please stop shooting her. Yeah, so, technically this was in 2022, but the truth came out recently. Yeah, so basically what happened was there was a father, he murdered his wife, he kidnapped a daughter, and the daughter ran out of the car, was running towards the police, begging for help, and they immediately assumed that this, 110-pound teenage girl was some kind of, I don't know, some kind of suicide bomber or something, so they just started shooting. Yeah, boy, the California Highway Patrol in action. God damn it, Ponch. I'm sorry. When did police officers just become like complete dickless candy asses? Like, I can understand being, on guard 'cause you don't know what's gonna happen, but like, you see a teenage girl running toward you, screaming for help, and you start shooting. Okay. Ponythroat asked, did they mistake her for an acorn or something? I presume they did. Shinseki Evans says those cops will face no punishment, but the cops in the George Floyd incident are in prison over nothing. Yes, yes, it is remarkably insane. Yeah, I'm not like one of these people who thinks that, like, we can just get rid of cops and everybody will immediately start like dancing around the trees, smoking, bongs and covering themselves head to toe and patchouli. But yeah, the cops do need some reforms. And bear in mind, I remember I talked about this a couple months ago. Cops have the audacity to call, the average person a coward, which is funny because whenever there's like school shooting incidents or any kind of spree shooting incidents, armed civilians do generally, take them out faster than the police. Studies have shown, but I'm sorry. What do the cops do? Like, don't you train for this shit? Like, what do they do in training? Like, you know, might I suggest that like maybe cops could like the cops who are going out into the field could spend most of their day training when they're not on the beat, and then you could have non-beat cops doing internal affairs. Okay, Shinseki Evans says they've been training them wrong for decades. Officer safety over public safety. Yes, I've uh, I've gotten that suspicion. I mean, is that why cops will send out like 10 cops to arrest one like drunk fat guy? Yeah, I think it is actually. Not all cops are bastards, but a lot of cops are incompetent shit asses. Okay, speaking about continuing on about why America sucks, let's leave California behind and we'll go to Washington State, Seattle. The Seattle Public Schools once had a gifted and talented program for, the best students. The program was canceled because there were too many white and Asian students. Of course, black parents who had their students in the program, you know, pushed back against this. The school board called them, tokens and Uncle Toms, and it was canceled. So, to be specific, um, a quote from the black parent in question. My request is that you please consider the disservice you would be doing to the minorities that are in the gifted and talented program. The program does more for black children than it does for their peers. In response, board director Sandra Hampson, a white woman, accused the father and other minority parents of being tokenized and used by the white parents. Yeah. I mean, this is I dimly remembers a analogy about crabs in a bucket, or something about equity basically being achieved by cutting off everybody's legs at the knees. People always ask me, like, America's so rich. Like, why does America suck so much? Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder. Because we don't demand standards and just goddamn qualifications anymore. We cut down the gifted programs in schools. We allow incompetent, dick wipes to be cops. Everything is done to just placate the goddamn, like, the lowest common denominator. That's why America sucks, okay? That's why America, there's a lot of really good people in this country. That's why we have 4 times as many Nobel Prizes as anybody else. But there's a large, feral retard population, and we allow them to continue to be feral retards. Oh, and this is also the same thing's going on in Canada as well. They're eliminating academic streaming and just everybody's going to suck. Oh boy, yeah, the future's going to be great. Hey, Shinseki Evans says, Washington State blows. Every day is stupidity like this. You have a woke ESG retard for governor. Yeah. Ponythroat says, the school marms basically say, baby don't need no fancy education. You can just go in the big house like the rest of his people. Yeah, you hear a lot about the school to prison pipeline as if, they go to prison and just, you can't, they just can't help going to prison. Sorry. Got to do that restorative justice. Yeah, restorative justice is horseshit. God forbid you demand the kids to behave and you nip it in the bud when they're young, because otherwise, basically they never get punished for anything, and they commit, greater and greater misdemeanors until they're committing felonies, and they get arrested at age 18. This is school to prison pipeline. Fuck you. Ian Kempster says Canada sucks because of liberal tyranny. Well, I guess you could say the same about America, so I can't really point and laugh because we're not any better. I don't know who memed it into existence that, like, demanding, like, good schools and safe streets and punishing, mal actors, malingerers, or what. Wait, that's. Punishing bad people is, like, apparently fascism, but, I guess we're fascists now. Guess we're all fascists now just because we demand, some minimum standards of behavior. Well, if we just make everybody, just take, like, idiot classes, that'll just magically make everybody just a genius and everybody will be astronauts and scholars for all eternity. Boing. You gotta, you have to understand that, like, some people are smarter than others. And, yes, you should, group people based on intelligence so they can, like, learn to the maximum of their abilities. Something else that annoys me is, how special education classes are done, because basically anybody who isn't neurotypical gets lumped into, special ed. So you have, ERM people or EMR people, autism people. Then you have brappies. So you have, nice kids who maybe have Down syndrome or autism, but they can learn something. And you have feral goddamn animals who will never learn a damn thing. And they're all put together. Nothing's going to get accomplished here. So yes, you should, I hate to use the term, but yeah, you should segregate people based on their academic ability. Yeah, so, like, with regards to special ed, I've taught, like, special ed kids before. Yes, you should put, the autistic kids and the Down syndrome kids and the kids who are educatable in the same classes, and you should treat them with kindness and respect and, gentleness and respect. Then the brappies will be taken out back and you can put bullets in their heads. I'm kidding. Or am I? No, I mean, the brappies you could put them in, like, yes. What to do with the brappies? I would say you could have them, like, clearing lots or, like, digging ditches, but are they even capable of doing that? And I'm sure there's, like, we could put them to work as, like, crash test dummies or something. Ian Kempster says, when the woke left blurred the line between facts and feelings, things started to suck. Indeed. Ponythroat says, with regards to special education programs, 140 IQ Spurg lords get placed on the same bus with the human cells capable of only drooling. Yes, that is a problem. Anyway, yeah, the schools suck. And of course, the Weish, tweedy little administrators never have to suffer any consequence of their actions. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of America's seemingly irreversible decline, a town hall report says illegal immigrants are given 7 times more taxpayer-funded benefits than military families. So, I was reading a Twitter thread yesterday talking about how, like in Finland, they just gave homeless people homes. Why doesn't America do that? Again, people seem to think that America is like this, gilded age, like cutthroat capitalist hellscape. It's really not. And just FYI, in Chicago and other cities, they did give homeless people like free hotel rooms free of charge. You know what happened? There was a flood of human feces in the rooms. I don't know why it works in Finland, but not here, but it doesn't. A phrase I've been hearing a lot lately is the purpose of a system is what it does. In other words, what that means is there's no point in complaining about what a system is supposed to do. If something happens, repeatedly over and over again, that's probably what the ultimate intent was of the system. So it's like, there's no point in complaining about what America's supposed to be like or, following the Constitution or anything like that. The government now does what it does. That is the purpose of our modern government system, to just fuck over the American citizen. It's funny because, like, my wife is actually, we're actually trying very hard to get her, citizenship, and is it even worth being a citizen at this point? I mean, my mom took like 10 years to become a citizen, but apparently you could just waltz in and just get money for free. Okay, Liam Roddy asks, with regards to this Korea thing I was talking about earlier, why is there such a disconnect between Asian men and women? Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I didn't date that many Asian women when I was playing the field. I mean, I dated 2 in my life. And, I didn't have any issues with them in that regard. So, I don't know. I really don't know. If I had to guess, it goes back to the whole, the dweeb thing. The same thing that is literally every single problem in the Asian community. And again, the solution is for Asian men to harden the fuck up, become, savage hatchet men, and take their women back. Which you can learn about in my book. Buy it now. I mean, I really think it is like the dweeb thing. I mean, when you're consistently portrayed as like sexless weenies, there's going to be some problems. I mean, I hear, smatterings every now and then that like there's starting to be a disconnect between white men and white women. It's probably the same thing. Since white men are increasingly like humiliated in the public square. But now imagine that going on for like another 100 years longer than it's been going on for white people, and that's what's going on with Asian people. OkCupid and other dating sites data consistently shows that white men are the most desired by basically all races, and I feel like that's like 90% of the anger and resentment towards white men. It's just like the whole like sexual colonialism, if you will. And not that I think that's irrational. I mean, if I were some 5'2" like Asian dweeb, I'd be a little upset too. Thankfully, I'm not. Sipong Messiah says Asian men need to bring out their inner Donnie Yen. That man is a Giga Chad. Yes, he is. Now, I should also point out that I think Bruce Lee came to the exact same conclusion as I did, which is why he made himself into a Giga Chad. That also drove him to cheat on his wife, which I don't approve of, certainly. But, the idea is there. Or as I like to put it, another way, if every Asian man woke up the next morning and, Kafka metamorphosisted himself into Bolo Young, our problems would be over like that. What's that, ladies? You don't find Bolo Young attractive? You don't really have a choice in the matter. Shinseki Evans says the male celebrities in Asia, especially Korea, look like little twinks. Yes, they do. I mean, it wasn't always this way. I mean, even in the '90s, like there was definitely more masculinity in pop culture in general. So yeah, I'm not a sociologist, but if I had to guess, that's probably why there's such a huge disconnect between Korean men and women, especially, and Asian men and women in general. And yes, let's be quite honest. There's a lot of really creepy white men and really creepy Asian women who slavishly obsess over the other counterpart in this equation. Yes, yellow fever and white fever both exist. It's not to say that every couple in that regard is an example of such fever cultures. But if you find yourself exclusively dating, if you're a gangly, dorky white man, and you find yourself exclusively dating mediocre Asian women, you might have a problem there. Anyway, let's move on from this. There's a lot more shit to go over. Oh yeah, speaking of actually tying very well into what I was just talking about. Uh Bingham Hospital, the Massachusetts General State Hospital, will no longer report babies who are born with drugs in their system to the Child Welfare Office because it disproportionately affects black people. Yes, you're so desperate to not be racist that you're going to, throw infants under the bus and bring them back to their goddamn, crackhead parents. Once again, people ask why America sucks. Why does America have like lower, you know, or I should say, why does America have higher infant mortality rates than, you know, than other wealthy countries? Yeah, it's a mystery. Why does America have, bad public transportation? Why does America have higher obesity rates and higher crime rates and, you know, and higher infant mortality and lower education? Yeah, it's one wonders why. It's a mystery. Just to clarify, Susan, I'm not saying that black people inherently are bringing these things down. It's just that, like, placating like the lumpen proles and just basically letting them just disobey the law and just catch and releasing them. That's the problem here. Apparently demanding, better of all American communities and all American citizens makes me a racist. Yeah, because America's so racist, which is why we're going to go to our next story here. Yeah, there's going to be a new census category in the next census. Middle Eastern, Arab, Persian, and Jewish. Yeah, so Middle Easterners are no longer white. Yeah, fuck you, Ross Bagdasarian. I mean, I would continue to mock Ross Bagdasarian, but Ralph Bakshi brutally made fun of him better than I ever could back in the '80s. But that's a whole different issue. But yeah, the Middle Easterners fought tooth and nail to not legally be considered white, and they got it. Yeah, but there's so much white privilege in America, though, which is why everybody's trying to not be white. It's the flight away from white, as opposed to white flight. Like, incidentally, back in the 1930s, there was a LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, who literally fought to be legally considered white, to kind of fight against anti-Hispanic prejudice, and they got it. So back then, you could clearly see there was white privilege. Once affirmative action came in, Hispanics immediately demanded to be considered aggrieved minorities instead of white people. I mean, I don't know what else you have to say. Yes, did America have much racism in its history? Yes. Has America pretty much swung hard in the other direction to make amends for that? Also, yes. Or, am I the only one who notices that every week there's some neurotic white lady pretending to be a Native American? Okay, Ponythroat says that is known as crack whore acceptance. Yes. Shinseki Evan says, wait, what? What did Dave Seville do? Well, I mean, Ross Bagdasarian is Lebanese, so back in the 50s and 60s, back when Alvin and the Chipmunks first came out, you know, sort of like a Middle Easterner like him would have been legally considered white. See also Marlo and Danny Thomas. But the point I was trying to make is that now legally he would not be considered white, and they fought tooth and nail for that. And with regards to the Ralph Bakshi thing, yeah, back in the 80s, when Bakshi was doing the Mighty Mouse New Adventure show, there was an entire episode basically shitting on Alvin and the Chipmunks and Ross Bagdasarian. Actually, pretty funny. Even though as a child, I'm like, I don't know anything about the politics of the animation industry. And then Bakshi also made fun of Ross's dog getting run over by a car, which I think was a little bit too far, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. Boy, the animation industry is pretty ruthless. Ponythroat says, it seems that everybody capable of building a society beyond mud huts and cannibalism used to be counted as white for some reason. Well, I mean, to be fair, some Hispanics are white. Which is, I don't know, I've always found it a little strange that, you could have some, Indian from the Selva standing next to, some guy who looks like he got off the boat with Cortez, and they're both Hispanic. Seems a little silly to me, but, whatever. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess there's Hispanic white and Hispanic non-white. But, yeah, I guess, the Middle Easterners, I guess they can be congratulated for getting what they wanted. I mean, they're not stupid. They knew that there is no more reason to be considered white if you can be not considered white, I should say, and they took it. So good for them, I suppose. Okay, we'll come back to our friends south of the border in a little while. We're going to go to Indonesia now, reporting from theindependent.co.uk. An article, How Climate Change is Hitting Vulnerable Indonesian Trans Sex Workers. That might be the most 2024 headline I've ever seen. Nearly 93% of respondents saw decreased income during the rainy season. Maybe people don't want to go hire hookers because it's raining outside. You don't make house calls, it's your business. Okay. Yeah, climate change is just climate change is bad in general, but don't you want somebody to think about the gay lady boys? LGBTQ individuals are sometimes blamed for problems related to climate change, according to Arif Dharmawan, a researcher at the Bandung Resilience Development Initiative. Yeah, they were associated with the causes of environmental problems and disasters. I mean, thank you, darling. Yes, I sneezed. This is a stupid article, and you should feel bad, Independent. For some reason, I'm reminded of that this guy from Thailand. He was a pro Muay Thai fighter, and then he like got a section and became a lady singer. Uh, I guess he could help out his brethren, but I guess not. Also, I'm seeing a graph showing that precipitation in Indonesia has very slightly increased in the last 10 years, but not really that much. So, if they weren't going out for sex during the rainy season before, it's not like climate change is coming up with. Sorry, it's not like climate change is causing the problem. I guess all the Vice and Gawker writers have to go somewhere. Anyway, yeah, let's move on. In sports news, in a manner of speaking, uh, apparently there is a BBL basketball. BBL is when women have grotesquely large buttocks due to, you know, bunch of artificial horseshit they inject in there. And, yeah, a lady was playing the basketball and she fell and she broke her leg. I guess her giant fake ass like threw her off balance and yeah, she's one wonders how they're gonna like deal with her leg break. Could you I don't know, is there a way you can like fix it without like having to remove the butt implants? Or are they gonna have to put her down like a horse or what? Yeah, this is why do people think that looks good? It doesn't. Like ladies, looking natural is always better than having grotesque amounts of freakish plastic surgery. Just FYI. Also, yeah, there's a Brazilian butt lift basketball leagues. Hey, who knew this was a thing? Remember when they tried to do slam ball and they tried to make that a thing, like trampoline basketball? Kind of the same thing, I guess. Pony throat referring to the Indonesian transsexual thing. What business that requires physical presence is not diminished by rain? Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, to be fair, Indonesia is literally a tropical climate. Like they have a rainy season. 3 months of the year is just raining all the time. You should be used to it by now. I mean, if you're not used to it by now, you're never going to get used to it. Ponythroat says, speaking of implants, I think it's a missed opportunity that fatalities in Mortal Kombat, they don't show the silicon parts of the female characters. They're ripped apart. I mean, I think they're all natural as far as I'm aware, Mortal Kombat wise. I still question why Devora and like Chameleon have titties. Like Devora's an insect and Chameleon is a reptile. Like they should not have bosoms, and yet they do. Ian Kempster says basketball sucks. Oh, it's hardly the worst sport in the world. I mean, professional laser tag exists. Ian Kempster says slam ball was live NBA Jam. Yeah, I mean, slam ball is kind of fun, but it's hardly a sport. Like nothing involving trampolines is a sport. I'm sorry. Yeah, I remember they used to show Slam Ball on Spike TV back when they were trying to be like, fucking Dude Bro Network. And they also had that shitty, like, adult animation block. Not to say that adult animation is bad, but every single show on that block was hot garbage. Fucking Ren and Stimpy adult party. Boy, that sucked. Also, John Cristofalusi really showing what a goddamn sexual predator he was all over every cell of that show. Amazing he didn't get caught until 2019. Ponythroat says, Bo Ride Show also has bosoms. Yes, he does. They also put jiggle physics in his fat gut. Ian Kempster says, agree. I presume he's referring to the Spike TV animation block. Ponythroat says, even 12-ounce mouse. I never saw it. But I did see Gary the Rat in the Ren and Stimpy reboot. And Stripperella. And oh my god, it was all fucking ass. You know what show I miss? Xavier Renegade Angel. That was some insane shit. That wasn't on Spike TV. That was on Adult Swim. Let's see. Also, yeah, 12-ounce mouse apparently was also on Adult Swim, not the Spike TV animation block. Shinsei Kevin says, what, you don't like Gary the Rat and Stripperella? No, I did not. Which is a shame because, like, usually Kelsey Grammer in animation is, a recipe for success. But Gary the Rat was not good. It was a good idea, just it wasn't good. Okay. So, leaving behind grotesque, like, implant buttocks. Some news from the University of Maryland. I should have mentioned this earlier, but, I just kind of scattershot my notes. University of Maryland, the Department of African American and Africana Studies allows you to minor in anti-black racism. For when, being an amateur racist isn't enough, you got to go to school and learn to be a professional racist. I thought that was funny. Yeah, you can you can be so racist you can get a degree in it. Okay, now that's enough about that. Anyway, moving on. Let's see what else I have here in my notes. All right, so before we get to the celebrity and pop culture side of things, something went viral a bit on the Twitters, or at least my side of Twitter. A Mangan 150 says, after school snack for a first grader. You don't have to feed kids junk. His plate has shrimp, salami, Havarti cheese, a hard-boiled egg, and some olives. I see nothing wrong with this, but some people were really mad about this. Like, oh, there's too much salt on it. Like, oh no, like they're gonna have wine with it. What's the calorie count? Yeah, God forbid kids eat natural and healthy food. If I have kids in the future, my kids are gonna be eating shit like this all the time. Oh, this salami has nitrates in it. You should give them, like, hot garbage instead. Yes, people, feed your kids good food. Don't feed them garbage. Make your kids better. Your kids will be better in the future. Kids will be healthier, stronger. They'll be giga chads by the time they're 10 years old. Ponythroat makes the same joke I made about the University of Maryland program. Major in anti-black racism. Get to use the hard R. Casual racism versus hardcore competitive racism. Yes, indeed. Some stupid person in this Twitter thread about the charcuterie plate. Are these foods for humans or wild animals? The only thing that looks cooked are the boiled eggs. Oh, for God's sake. Like, it's a charcuterie plate. And, usually I'm against using the term charcuterie because it can be ridiculously pompous. Like, call them cold cuts like an American, God damn it. But, yeah. Like, don't give your kids crap. Your kids will love you much more if they eat the good foods. And people are like, oh, the deadly shrimp allergies. Well, obviously, yes, if your kid is allergic to shrimp, they shouldn't eat the shrimp. But you can't know for sure until you find out. Ponythroat says, biology tip. If you want your kid to be big and strong, make sure he's a fat ass as an infant. Yes, well said. I mean, you got to try to not have your baby be a fatty. That is what babies do. They're fatties. Yeah, like, feed your children healthy food and then put them on the La Sierra fitness program when they get to school. We can make this country great again, one healthy plate at a time. All right, yeah, so now we got some pop culture news to talk about. We're coming down to the end of the stream here. So, first of all, uh, news in the Marvel Comics. There's a new what if. What if Miles Morales became the Human Torch? Somebody says, poor Peter Parker. At this point, he gets nothing while Miles is thriving. Yes, what if Miles Morales was the Human Torch? What if he was the Punisher? What if he was Thor? What if Miles Morales was an actual goddamn character and was interesting instead of just being a goddamn blank slate diversity hire who sucks? Does nobody else see this? Like, they keep throwing things at the wall, hoping that, for the love of God, can you please like Miles? No. We don't like him because he sucks. There literally is a Latino Spider Man already, Miguel O'Hara from Spider Man 2099. He's actually a good character. Nobody listens. And, I didn't see any of those, Spider-Verse movies, but from what I've heard, they literally bring in Miguel O'Hara just to kind of shit on him and, prop up Miles. Could somebody, vouch me on that, whether or not that actually happened? But yeah, Marvel, just keep giving the man powers, and hopefully people will like him. It's the exact same lesson that Ed Boon and John Tobias learned for Stryker in Mortal Kombat 3, and that worked out great. It's not at all like Stryker was a hated character until Mortal Kombat 9. Oh boy, people trying to say Miles is good. He has his own rogue gallery, the Bumbler, some kind of bumblebee man. That's basically just one step away from the Diddler as a villain. Pony Throat, referring to Miguel O'Hara, says he appeared in Spider-Man 2099, so he has to share a universe with Jack Gallows. Excuse me, sir. I will not have you denigrating Punisher 2099 in my goddamn stream. Punishment Day! On the edge, me. A man who proved that, You don't need a jetpack to fly. You just need raw hatred, fueling you. I still wake up in night. I'm sorry. I wake up in the morning wishing I had the power bat. Sadly, I do not have the power bat. Rick says Miguel O'Hara is the bad guy in one of the Spider-Verses. That's unfortunate. Alpha Mariga says, I like the first Spider-Verse movie, not so much the second. Ponythroat referring to Curtis Stryker. He has the honor of being the recurring MK character who was bottom in every game he appeared in. Well, I mean, I know that in Ultimate MK3, Boone and Tobias were like, why do the people not like Stryker? Could it be because he's a pudgy mall cop in a Mortal Kombat game? No, it's because he's not powerful enough. Let's make him more powerful. And they did that, and they made him more powerful, and it didn't work. And once they actually made him an interesting character and, not a fat mall cop in the later games, people actually liked him. Yep, screw Miles Morales. Stop trying to make it. Marvel, stop trying to make Miles Morales happen. He's not going to happen. And finally, in pop culture news, one of the all-time great that guys is dead. Joe Flaherty, Pittsburgh's finest, from SCTV, and also the jackass guy from Happy Gilmore. He is dead. He was 82 years old. All the that guys are dying. Louis Gossett Jr. died. Now Joe Flaherty. The Grim Reaper's coming for Al Leong pretty soon. Ponythroat says, doesn't Punisher 2099 have a skull made of styrofoam cups? Yeah, basically. I think they're supposed to be like grenades or something, but yeah, it looks pretty lame. I'm sorry. I like Punisher 2099, but it's not good. It's enjoyably stupid, but it's not good. So yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. If anybody has anything else to say, you can say it now. Ponythroat asks, are those McDonald's cups, are those the Grenazers? I believe they are, sir. And, as much as I make fun of Punisher 2099, I do use the phrase, I don't need a jetpack, all I need is hate, more than I should. All right, so as we wind down the stream, say your last pieces, please. Shinseki Evan asks, did you hear about the comic book artist who got canceled and killed himself? No, I did not. When did that happen? I know that there was that game designer that Zoe Quinn drove to suicide, but that's a whole different issue. That was like, I think a year or two ago. But no, I was not aware of this comic book artist who killed himself. Who is that? Okay, Alpha Marigi says, well, actually, Shinseki Evans says, Ed Pisker killed himself. No, I never heard of this. I didn't even know who that was. Got to look this one up. Meanwhile, as I talk about that, Alpha Marigi says, did you hear about the masculinity grifter who got a hooker pregnant? Oof, that's, first of all, why would you have sex with a prostitute unprotected? That's, seems like a, well, I mean, I guess he's a gambling man. But yeah, I did not know about that either. So who was that, Alpha Marigi? But yeah, while you're talking about that, I'm going to look up the Ed Pisker thing. Let's see what happened here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so apparently there was some kind of, I don't know what the hell it is. So people accuse him of being an abuser, a groomer, and apparently he was none of those things. And yeah, it's obviously not good that the man was driven to suicide. Yeah. All right, here's his suicide note, or a quote from it at least. There are many out there waiting in the wings for something like this to emerge. Daryl Braithwaite called it a kill shot. You got your wish. You were waiting for something to blow out of proportion, and you got it served to you on a silver platter. Ramon Villalobos, Cam Del Rosario, JB Rowe, Molly Wright. You got your pound of flesh. Evan Dorkin. I hope skeletons from your closet get revealed someday. Alex DeCampi. And you continue to have zero success. Something called the Whisper Network. Uh, basically, sort of like a canceling crew. Kind of got to him. Mainly, I'm just kind of upset that he named Evan Dorkin because I actually do really like Evan Dorkin's work. But yeah, I mean, it kind of upsets me that Evan Dorkin might have some skeletons in his closet. But yes, numerous comic book professionals mention that there is a Whisper Network. And then all of a sudden, once Ed Pisker name drops it in his suicide note, everybody says, oh, it never existed. You're a QAnon, conspiracy man. I'm not going to pretend like I was familiar with Ed Pisker's work, at least not off the top of my head. I'm sure I've read some of his comics somewhere. But, yeah, well, it's not good that that happened. Okay. Alpha Rodriguez says, fresh and fit is the masculinity grifter who impregnated a lady of the night. How do you have a whole podcast about not getting into the situation with women only to get into the situation with a woman? Yeah, again, it seems to just be common sense to, sleep. If you must hire a prostitute, like wear a condom, like at least. Yeah, so again, you got your last piece to say it now. Alf Rodriguez says there's Fresh and Fit. They are the two guys on that channel. Fit is a gay federal asset, and Fresh is the one who bangs hookers. Good to know. I've never heard of either of them. And, I'm not, I mean, I've always argued that prostitution should be legalized, but, you know, again, if you must do such a thing, yeah, please use a condom. Just common sense. Like, you don't know where that's been. Timothy Adams says, millionaire hires Chinese prostitute. Oh, she's a pro. Hooker, wee he. I don't get it. Okay. How far does a 10K a month child support go in the PRC? Probably pretty far. Alrighty, so I think that does it for today's stream. So for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.